In this episode, we're tackling two major issues that most new and experienced runners face when it comes to tracking your progress. Is all the technology and metric data helping, or is it leaving you super confused? We're gonna break down the science of balancing fitness goals and reveal the biggest mistake runners make when it comes to tracking their performance. If you've ever felt buried in data and you don't know how to use it, this episode is for you. But before we get into it, I'll be joined by a good friend, pro certified running coach, and exercise scientist with almost 500,000 followers on Instagram, Mike Trees, aka Run.Energy, to help answer all these questions. I am Darren, certified running and nutrition coach, sub 3-hour marathoner, and 10-hour Ironman finisher. Since 1996, I've been helping other self-coach runners, researching and experimenting on how to better myself 1% each day, because this is the 1% better runner. And we do all of this to help you live an amazing run life. Let's dive into it. What do you think is the biggest issue that new and experienced runners deal with in particular tracking their metrics? So, we've spoken a bit about the theories behind it all, but a lot of new runners, they come in, they don't know exactly what to do. So what do you think the biggest issue is with heart rate and all that stuff?
The biggest issue is a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. So everyone has a little bit of knowledge, but really don't understand the bigger picture. So the bigger picture is forget the heart rate monitor, forget the watch, forget everything. It's what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to achieve running just for fun? Do you just want to run with your friends and be sociable? Do you want to be world champion? Do you want to finish a marathon? Do you want to finish a marathon in a set time? Do you want to run a 1500? You need to know what your goal is, why you're doing it. And most people when I ask them, they haven't really thought about this. And so that's the first problem. The second problem with all this, we then define their goals and they say, yeah, I want to run, I'm going to say this just simply, I want to run a sub 3-hour marathon. And say, okay, that's a challenging goal. Where are we now? Let's look at the starting point and how do we get there? Before we even get onto any metrics. Then I say to them, this is what we'll need to do. The next thing is we need to fit this into your life cycle. So there's no point in thinking how are you going to train and do everything if you've got a sick mother you have to look after and work, or if your job is 12 hours a day. So everything has to fit in. We have to look at all the external factors playing. Are you a student that has to pass your exams first? Then we might say, okay, that's more realistic. You've got to get through those exams. So maybe the marathon isn't so good now. Maybe let's look at something simpler and get a different goal. So we then define our goal and what's realistic within their social, academic, and financial lifestyle. And so it can fit into a daily pattern. Then we can come to, do they need a watch? Do they need to start looking at the metrics and where they're going? So we start to look at how fit they are, where they need to go. And I think you don't need that watch yet. As you said right at the start, I don't know if it's going to be cut out or not, but the point is, when they start training, there's so much that they just have to run and they're going to get quicker. So my thing is just get them running, but also get them running at a sustainable level that they're not going to be running for 3 weeks and then injured and miss 3 weeks. So let's get a sustainable build-up pattern. And then let's start adding complexity along the line. So it never gets easier. They just get more in tune with their own bodies and able to cope with more work and more metrics and more knowledge. So I don't want to be saying, let's have a look at your cadence to a runner who's just starting. I'll just get them to run and I'll happily look at their cadence and think, well, it's near enough, there or thereabouts. Let's forget about that one for now and look at something else. Are they overstriding? Are they're landing really badly? Let's work on some form things that we need to work on. Let's look at the most important things. So the metrics come last. Too many people are into IT these days. They're into the gadgets. And to be honest, I love them as well. I love looking at it, but it's just, for me, it's a fun little thing that I like looking at. It's not serious. And I posted about how smartwatches give me a VO2 max of 70. Well, that just confuses most people because I'll tell them to do an aerobic run and the metrics on the smartwatch actually don't count aerobic runs to build up their VO2. They just count zone 3. They just look at the heart rate and say, have you been in zone 3 for how long? Yes, your VO2 max is going up. Have you been in zone 1? Too much? Oh, your VO2 is going down. So they often don't understand how the metrics work on the smartwatches, and it confuses them. And the smartwatches totally overestimate the metrics. It gives me one of 70, for example. Whereas when I had a a VO2 of 70, I was running 345 for the 1500 meters. And 70 is actually classified as a sub-international runner. So you're on the borders of just about getting international status running, which is what I was. Derek Clayton at a VO2 max of 69 broke the marathon world record. So there's so much in these metrics that are meaningless, but interesting. But I think the main metric to have a little bit of an idea on it is heart rate, just to understand it, to where you're going. That's the first one to get into, if I had to pick one metric, and start to learn about your body and your heart rate.
If you want to find out more about what we talked about in this last episode that you just listened to or watched, go to this next video right here.